Just landed in Seoul for the first time ever, and after traveling for over 24 hours to get here, the first thing that was on my mind was food. And what better way to start off the trip than going to the night market to get some delicious street food. And it didn't take me long to find something good to eat, and the first stall I saw was tteokbokki, which, if you're unfamiliar, is a chewy rice cake that's cooked in a spicy sauce, and this definitely hit the spot as my first food in Korea, but I knew I wasn't done. Then, as the sun started to set on the city, the street became more alive, with more people coming into this area to get food from any number of the numerous street stalls there. Next thing up for me to try was hotaku, which I've previously had in Japan and Koreatown. This is a fried and filled dough that can be filled with all sorts of things like kimchi and cheese, to something sweet like this one with brown sugar syrup. These are definitely super tasty and definitely worth a try if you ever get a chance. And as I continued to explore this area, I saw a cart with a tteokbokki on it, which is selling this thing called egg bread. This is something I've never eaten, let alone ever heard of before coming here. And egg bread is one of those foods that kind of breaks your brain when you eat it. To start, the bread is almost sweet and eggy like a brioche, but then smack down in the center is a hard-boiled egg. And this is something that I really want to try making at home, so look out in the future for a video where I try to recreate this. The last food of the evening was japchae, which is a stir-fried vegetable dish with soy sauce, and then it's mixed up with glass noodles. And it was a nice change to eat this after the egg bread. Heading back to the hotel, in the train station I found these tarts for dessert, which came from this bakery, with the one on the left being a baked Alaska and the one on the right being creme brulee flavored. Now on the second day, I started by heading towards the palace, but needed some breakfast, so I went to a cafe along the way that's called Wooden Brick. And after heading inside, there was tons of pastries and breads, and of course, the most important thing I needed to fight off that jet lag, coffee. I ended up getting a scone, this flaky pastry called a New York Choco Danish, and a cheese-filled baguette to go with my iced Americano. Now I'll get to the attractions to visit at the end of this video, but let me continue with the food side of things first. Now the temperature on the second day got up to nearly 90 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of the day, which can be very draining when you're out in the sun walking around the streets. So as we were wandering through the side streets of Seoul, we found another cafe to take a break at and grab some food and some cold drinks there. This place was a 4-story cafe with a rooftop terrace that we had completely to ourselves. It was awesome to sit and relax out of the sun, taking a 360 view of Seoul, which I have to sometimes remind myself that it's okay to slow down and relax on any trip. Again, these type of bakeries typically have all the items out so you can pick what you want and pay at the register. The two items we picked out at this time was this purple bun and this loaf of brioche that had chunks of sweet potato inside of it. And the drink to go along with this, we had a berry smoothie and a plum latte. Oh yeah, and that purple bun was actually filled with a sweet potato, making it not too sweet in the end. Refueled after this pit stop, it was time to brave the always packed and super hectic Gwangjang Market. This place was filled with people, and moving through it, you just kind of had to go with the flow, so filming inside was kind of a challenge. There are food stalls everywhere, from down the center to the stores on either side of this semi-enclosed space. I'd say the main attraction, or maybe the most iconic part of this market, is the sit-down stalls. You sit basically elbow to elbow with people, and the cooks your view from right inside the center of the stalls. The thing that caught my eye when we were meandering through was this pop-up booth for a beer. And let's be honest, I'm pretty much a sucker for any beer marketing I see when I travel. It started with their sit-down table outside, but entering the store right next to it, it was filled with the swag of this beer. And they also had to-go packets, so I went into the fridge and grabbed a can of this Jeju wet ale to go. And in my honest opinion, when I had it back at home, it was kind of meh. And so no need for FOMO on your end. Then I continued to move up and down the aisles, and I found a mung bean pancake stall, which is in the center, which is made by soaking mung bean paste and then grinding it into a powder, and using that powder to make a dough, and then mix that either with veggies or meat, and then deep frying it in a bunch of oil. This is super tasty and definitely worth a try if you get a chance. Then for something cold, we waited in the line to try this sweet rice drink, which tasted pretty much like rice pudding. Additionally, while in Seoul, we did try 2 vegan restaurants we were there. The first one we went to for lunch was Alt.a, where we did get some delicious and spicy kimchi dumplings as an appetizer, followed by mapo tofu, and I got some cold, spicy numbing noodles. I definitely recommend this place, even though it's a little bit outside the center of the city. Second place we went to was this place, which I honestly thought was just missing the spice and overall flavor I was looking for. It did have a long wait to get inside, and it stopped seating 1 hour before close, so just keep in mind if you do go check it out. But moving on from food, let's transition to some good beer. Doing a bunch of research before I came, I found several craft breweries to try in Seoul. On the second evening, we decided to check out Seoul Brewing. So to get there, we walked down Hongdae Street. If you're unfamiliar, Hongdae Street is near the university, so there's lots of places to shop, but we were just kind of strolling through to get to that brewery at the end. The brewery had a diverse list of beers on tap, and the two that caught my eye to start was this Fruity Tail Sour Ale and the Chunky Hazelnut Imperial Stout. This sour tasted just like a bright beer mosa that was also a little bit tart and had some notes of juicy orange. But the Imperial Stout was excellent, and this beer tasted just like a boozy milk chocolate bar. I highly recommend this if it's still around when you go. The brewery also had some little bites to pair along with the beer, so we ordered shiitake nuggets. And after the first round, I'm gonna try the other sour they had on tap, which is called Night Bloom. And this one was a lot lighter, but also super refreshing and very drinkable with only a mild acidity. Now, if you want to, they do sell cans to go, and I totally would have bought one of the Imperial Stouts, but given how good it was, the bartender told me they already sold out of that that beer. The second brewery we went to was called Amazing Brewing. That was over by Common Grounds, which is a mall inside converted shopping containers. But I'll be honest, this was just filled with a bunch of similar stores I see here stateside, so maybe skip this as it's pretty far out from the rest of everything else. Then heading back one stop to the brewery, we got there finally and the sign outside said it was closed on Monday. Despite Google saying it was supposed to be open, it wasn't, so oops. So that brings me to Mysterlee Brewing, which we went to on the final night we were there. I think doing some of the research, I believe this is one of the original craft breweries in Seoul. After waiting a few minutes, we got a table outside, and when checking out the tap list, my eye was immediately drawn to this collab they did with Cascade. It was a sour ale with Alt.a berries and cherries, so I had to order that as Cascade Brewing is one of my favorite sour breweries in the US. In addition to that, we also ordered a flight of beers that included the Hellebon Sour, Mystery Saison, a European Amber Lager, the Grabber IPA, the Deer Crown Double Hazy IPA, and lastly, La Cabra Coffee American Stout. In addition to their own beers, they also have several guest beers available to go and on tap. And after trying everything on the flight, I can definitely say that if you're looking for a great craft brewery in Seoul, go check out Mysterlee Brewing. And I will say Seoul is home to more than just great food and drink. So here's some of the other things that we did while we were in Seoul. On the first morning, we started by walking across the Seoulo 7017, which is a converted highway that they turned into a green space. It also doubles as a bridge to cross over the busy roads that goes right next to Seoul Station. And looking at either side of the bridge, you get a pretty good view of the city's skyline, as well as Seoul Station as you can look down to it. But the obvious reason to walk through here is there's tons of plants, from trees into flowers. And luckily for us, coming here in mid-May, all the flowers have just started to bloom, and even got to see a bunch of little happy bees buzzing from flower to flower. From there, we got on the metro, headed towards the palace, and if you also want to go to this palace, one of the main things to see is the changing of the guards. But just be aware it only happens twice a day, with the first one being at 10 a.m. and the second one being at 2 p.m. The ceremony typically takes about 10 minutes from start to finish, but make sure you get there several minutes beforehand to get a good unobstructed view. Also start to rope off the area maybe about 30 minutes beforehand to where they'll march in. Additionally, you can buy a ticket to enter into the palace grounds for about 3,000 won to see several of the still standing buildings of the older architecture of Korea. After walking through the palace grounds, we went over to Namsan cable car to ride that up to Seoul Tower. The several minute ride costs 14,000 won round trip or 11,000 won one way. But if you prefer, there is a hiking route that is free that goes up and around this whole area. From up here, as long as you walk around, you get a nearly 360 view of Seoul, as it's basically in the center of the city and it's above everything else. Also, one of the most popular things to do here is attach a lock to these fences and throw it a key to symbolize your eternal love. So if you want to do this, don't be price gouged by the vending machine that's up here. Pick up one beforehand and do it once you get here. In addition to that, you can also go up to Seoul Tower to get an even higher view at this point of the city for an additional price, but we opted not to do that. Something that was kind of random that was going on when we were here specifically was Lacoste had an event going on with some games and prizes to win. Now, this is nowhere near an exhaustive list of everything to see, eat, drink in the city of Seoul, but be sure to subscribe, as the next video on this trip, I'll be showing you one of the strangest theme parks I've ever been to that's located right in Seoul. And if you want to see similar travel videos like this one, click the link on the video screen right now, and I hope to see you again soon.